This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by Globalspeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of Globalspeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Dana, welcome to Tag Radio.
Hello there, Frank. How you doing?
Well, I got to tell you that we get opportunities in rare times, really great opportunities, to go out into the future and look back. Let's go to the ecosphere, because that's one of those kind of new words that you hear a lot about it, but I don't know too many people that really totally understand and get it. Give us a little insight and what's it all about and how it's going to change, say, for example, the effectiveness of our operations.
Yeah, if I want to talk about the ecosphere of AR and VR, augmented and virtual reality,
right,
it really stems back a little further back than the present time. It's been around for anywhere towards 30 or 40 years, and some folks even say beyond that. And there's been lots of, I'll say, starts and stops in both of the virtual and augmented reality industries. And just to lay some, I'll say, groundwork here, virtual reality, you put on a headset, and it basically transforms and takes you to a new place. So you're basically blocked out from the rest of the world, and you're in your own intimate environment, and you're able to experience something completely new. Whereas augmented reality, on the flip side, you put on a different headset, or you can use it via nowadays through a mobile device or even a tablet to experience augmented digital content in your real world. So it's a digital overlay, I'll say, in the real world. So just to sort of lay those fundamentals down for folks who get caught up in between what's VR versus AR, here at You Are Here Labs, we focus on immersive experiences. And a lot of the times we are using virtual and augmented reality. But in reality, we tend to look at a lot of other ways to bring the user or the person accessing the content through different experiences in very different ways. So we'll look at things like projection mapping or image recognition or different ways to bring them into a variety of experiences. And today I'd love to, maybe focus in on the training industry a little bit. Does that sound like a good place to start, Frank?
Oh, absolutely. But before we leave that particular look at this ecosphere, and I understand the generality of the term, but I think specifically as it relates to what we're talking about today, I'm fascinated by the concept of what ultimately happens when everything that's possible ultimately matures out, converges, and happens. So before we go into the enhancement, I already have had an opportunity to kind of look at some of the things you've done, and the things that are happening in training are just they're mind-boggling. But the other side of it is that just kind of touch a little bit on what would 10 years look like when all of these things are fully enabled and completely embraced to the point that they become ubiquitous. I mean, what reality or augmented reality or I'm not even artificial reality. I mean, what will we be working in and living in? And will it go that far, or is that, still kind of science fiction?
No, I truthfully can't wait to get there, to be honest. I had the privilege of going out to one of the big universities on the West Coast and got to visit a nanotechnology lab out there. And while I was there, I had the privilege of donning a big white suit and handing over my phone and getting to go into one of the labs to understand the complexities of nanotechnology. And while I was there, we got to understand that they're able to now put 23 nanos onto a single atom, obviously invisible to the eye. And when I started to make the connection of that And here we are right now just waiting for not a clunky headset to put on. But it immediately made me think, you know what, we're waiting for these clunky headsets, but these folks are already ready to put this into contact lens form, right? And I'm sure it's already happening, and it's down there on the hush-hush, but I could really see the future of all of us, if you want, to be able to don a pair of contact lenses and to be able to be served up digital content in front of your eyes.
Well, you're dating yourself by even saying contact lenses. I mean, I'm sure it'll be some form of, sort of
implants or yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to I didn't want to go too scary in sci-fi there, but.
Well, and again, let's kind of just dabble a little bit in the future, because I think by and large, a lot of the players that we present our information and in some cases awareness in an interview like this. They're first-generation entrepreneurs, they're business owners. Often they're, successful. One of the things that we say is a man can make the same mistake for years and call it experience. So when you're talking about legacy systems and traditional business plans, you got a lot of people that have been making a lot of money and are very successful for a pretty long time. Now we're talking about this digital transformation, and in a way, gee gosh, everything you're doing needs to be advanced and upgraded and digitized and put onto a high-speed connectivity, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like putting a fire hose and watering a rose bush, you know what I mean? So the poor guy, whether he's a CIO or actually an owner, when you look ahead, it's kind of impossible to try to figure out how do you make a decision, how do you make an investment. So in reality, or in this case, virtual reality, part of the reason why I'm kind of diving a little bit deeper into it, Dane, is that our people are just beginning to look at some of the things that they're going to have to face in this transformation. And when they start hearing about artificial intelligence and they talk about, virtual environments, it's sort of like, wait a minute, I'm manufacturing countertops, I'm trying to sell them around the country. Can't you give me something that is going to save me money or make me money? Is it all about kind of games? So I guess really one more time, and this will be the last one, because I really do want to let some of our people hear about what's going on in the training field. Talk a little bit about, in a way, how do you see it? I mean, certainly education and the transformation of information, I mean, the more that you can use a particular mechanism that gets a lot to that individual's mind as quick as possible, and they say that, from a visual standpoint, motion and visual and sound are the ultimate way to educate and communicate. Do you see that, like, for example, give us some kind of maybe an indication of, more of a traditional industry and how they might use it to do other things, like marketing and product demonstrations? Would that be part of what is ahead for some of our owners?
Yeah, I mean, it's already happening, right? You go to any big conference or any big trade show right now, and VR and slowly AR is coming into play into any of those experiences, and they'll have a line wrapped around the booth to get in and wait to get to see that kind of content or, marketing material or mini training, episode that they might be showcasing at one of those. From a marketing perspective, there's lots of folks who are, I'll say, dipping their toe in the water and already jumping in feet first. You've got folks like IKEA and Home Depot who are now allowing you to put furniture in your home before you even buy it. I think even IKEA is doing a augmented reality how-to app to actually put their goods together. If you've ever had the trials and tribulations of putting an IKEA cabinet together, you probably can, have some empathy there and really want that to be part of their service offering pretty soon. And then you got folks like Porsche, who we do some work with, and we've created a custom car configurator in augmented reality where it'll revolutionize the way a dealership runs, or maybe even the way people go forth on selling automobiles, because you can go online and customize your car on a website. But can you park it in your driveway? Can you see what it looks like as it's parked in your garage? Could you really see yourself almost behind the wheel of that vehicle? And that's some of the really interesting ways that you can use augmented reality today from a marketing perspective.
Well, everybody talks about the experience, the experiential aspects of it. I mean, obviously, like say, for example, in our particular case, some of the things that we get involved in, we're involved in a pretty extensive exhibit for Cray supercomputers. And if you know even today of a supercomputer, I mean, they're as big as a bookcase. I mean, they're still large and daunting to look at and really don't have much to see. But the way that we're doing it is with augmented reality, as you're pointing out. You simply touch a certain spot, and what pops out is an individual that tells you specifically how that particular piece of equipment, what it does, and fundamentally how it enables, say, for example, driverless cars or something like that, because of the volume of content and the management of that content through a supercomputer. So, I mean, the prospects of enhancement, and another one that I'm aware of, and I'm sure you guys may have been part of it, but I think it was the Georgia Department of Parks and Recreation or something, but they were having a problem with young people going to see state parks and enjoying the facilities. So what they did was they put some form of augmented capability so that as you walked upon a particular, say, for example, ruin, it fundamentally looked like a pile of rocks. You could look at it from the perspective of a piece of equipment and be able to actually see, say, for example, a Civil War general come walking towards you and talk about this happened to be a location where this particular event happened or this battle occurred. So, I mean, that part of it undoubtedly, I'm sure that we're all in, and of course the gaming aspect, all of that's entertaining and exciting. I'm just fascinating, and we're going to have you back, because I think the evolution of these things, again, one of the things we talk about here a lot is when you get to the point of an innovation that's disruptive, that's not the end. That's the beginning, because what that's going to do is trigger off the next thing and hybrid with the next thing. So where this all ends up and where it's all going, it's going to kind of be fun to watch it unfold, but also to be able to see how some of the experts leverage what they know now to be able to apply what's coming next. Let's jump into an actionable and a deliverable. I mean, I can't think of too many places anymore, depending on the size of the company, that isn't involved in some form of training of one kind or another. You mentioned, you wanted to kind of dig a little deeper into that. Let's go.
Yeah. When you start to think about the training aspect, anybody who's sat through, whether it be a trainer-led or professor-led course, I don't know about you, but I tend to start to drift off and, start to think about other things. Or even if I'm watching a video how-to or a training module and things like that, your mind starts to wander. But the power of virtual reality in this case is that when you're watching something in virtual reality, your brain actually processes it differently than watching something passively like a video. So it processes it like a memory. And there have been studies upon studies already done that's showing upwards towards 30 to 40% better retention for something that might be viewed in virtual reality. And this is where some of that, hesitation comes from a lot of folks as well within the virtual reality space, especially when it comes to kids and things like that as their brains are developing, right? They don't know the fundamental difference between what they're viewing maybe in virtual reality versus what actually is reality, right? So we recognize some of those, precautionary tales, and also are really keen to understand how and why the brain thinks of things differently in this manner. So we've been really looking at the practical applications for a lot of virtual content, and we see a lot of success in the training space, especially because it's right now, I'll say, contained and manageable, right? Most companies who have some kind of training offering They know who their user base is. They know what device they might be using, or they can control that content. It's a much more controlled experience. So it's a little bit easier in the sort of training space than it might be out there at the consumer level, because there's so many different devices and different phone models and different things grasping for your attention. So one of our clients that we work with is an HVAC company, and they use contractors to do all of their, repairs and work and installs. And they were kind enough to come to us about, just doing a 360 video initially of their training center. And then we started to dig a little bit deeper in understanding what the evolution of their training program was going to look like. And it was great to hear that they wanted to build out 5 different training centers across the U.S. and start to really utilize VR to better educate their contractors. Each of them today, as they came through their contracting for training, their contractors would sit through, a whole bunch of classroom environments and really get to maybe bang on some of the units, these big, heating and air conditioning units. They'd get to bang on them, 2 or 3 times throughout the training. But being able to now migrate that content from those classroom experiences into virtual reality, everybody gets a hands-on experience. They get to get in there, and through the controllers of, utilizing virtual reality, you're able to get in there and open up the units and look inside and pull things apart and put them back together. You can take that home, and you can do it in the privacy of your home versus just sitting in a classroom. So when you start to think about the time and I'll say intensity of the training, and basically having it more at your own time and disposal, it's more apt to get more play than something or someone sitting in a classroom for hours upon hours listening to, to a professional trainer, but at the same time, that attention span is only for so long. So I'm going to pause, because I think, when you start to think about those things, I'm sure it brings up lots of different questions in lots of different people's minds.
Well, and again, you touched upon it, but I think that the moral, cultural, sort of structured and expected environment of what we know versus this place that we don't really know called the future is now being presented us with a layer of even more dynamic in terms of, I was thinking as you were talking, so I hate to be as naive as something as, fake news. Well, I'm not going political here, but what I am saying is, what is the truth? What is reality? And when we start combining all of these capabilities and they become so ubiquitous, and there isn't really a stop and an understanding that you're leaving one and going into the other, but rather because of the fact that you've ordered that particular advanced capability for your company, or have that particular aspect added to your in-home electronics system. Where I'm going is, again, so much of what the future is going to hold are, up to and even including someone to help me with my own deductive reasoning, artificial intelligence. So when that supercomputers crank up and they finally reach the, E scale or whatever the maximum is going to be, and the world is now truly high-speed, interconnected, predictive, prescriptive data, all anticipating what you're going to want when you want it, and all that environment added on top of an environment that isn't really where I'm at, but helps me to get to where I want to go. I'm an old Madman ad agency guy. Classic, and I can remember going to some of the really nice upscale Manhattan restaurants for lunch, and boy, after 3 martinis, we were coming up with some great ideas. But what was funny is that everybody made a great living, and everybody signed contracts, because the reality of those situations were they were some of the first innovations that kind of triggered what you call now this disruption, because obviously, even in those days, you could predict, but pretty much it was stable. Well, I tell you, and again, when you're doing marketing and marketing strategy, and you're dealing with, Eastern philosophers say grabbing water, it becomes kind of an interesting challenge. So again, I'm always fascinated by what happens when it all comes together and when everything that is currently here now begins to hybrid and evolve into what's next. Interesting opportunities, interesting challenges as far as even running a business, but and also being competitive, i.e. in the marketplace. Let's go into maybe a little bit. You mentioned training. I can remember, and I'm probably dating myself because it didn't been that long ago, but it seems like everything is, when I mention a time or an experience, I can remember one time hearing, it was like everybody was going, I can't believe it. Did you hear that Gates has got basically screens all over his house and he doesn't have any artwork on them? And when he comes home, he can pick whatever art and it changes everything. You know, you were mentioning some of the things that are going to be able to happen in these environments. I can remember when, we're talking about a virtual Porsche, it seemed like the, silicon chips were going to get to be so ubiquitous and so inexpensive that they were going to be actually put into paint, and that you could paint your car with these chips and aim a key at it and change the color depending on the day of the week that you wanted to go into it. So when all of this stuff really happens, I mean, it's going to be a magical time, but I almost think it's a case where all we can do is kind of speculate, because living during that period, there's no way to predict, no way to really understand cause and effect, and even the overall impact on the evolution of ourselves as far as, our own businesses and commerce and marketplaces. So anyway, give me a little bit of a primer of okay, geez, Frank, I'm listening to you. I'm totally confused, and I'm more worried than I was before I started listening to the program. I want to go to someplace and get some advice. How do I make contact? Who do I make contact with? What would be the first step if I'm thinking about looking at and beginning to put some hard-earned money into an investment that I have absolutely no understanding of?
So I want to react to one thing you said earlier, and this, I'll say, hyper reality that I think everybody envisions because of what's portrayed in movies and all this digitization in front of your face, right? Yep. Similar to how you view content through your mobile phone today, right? You pick and choose what you want to see. You turn on and off your preferences to how much content you want to see. I mean, I customize. I use Waze to get home every day, and I customize that down to the simplest form of just me driving on the road and please just tell me where the cops are or there's a big pothole, right? I don't want to see everybody else driving because that's just confusing. That's just more information than I need. And I think we all need to be comfortable that we're going to have that control, so to speak, over what's presented to us in the future. But as far as how it's presented and what is presented, yes, it still might be up to the advertisers and how that information is getting to you as an individual because of your personal preferences, right? It's the same way we're dealing with, ads online today. You're going to have to customize those and turn on and off your preferences to make sure that you're getting to see what you want to see versus what your neighbor wants to see. And then if we start to think about how we want to, if companies want to start dipping their toe in the water, really recognizing where your business challenges are and understanding what this type of technology can help solve for, those are sort of the conundrums that get brought to us all the time. And some folks will come to us and say, look, I just want to do some VR work, or I just know we should be doing AR, and let's get started. And, we really dig into the how and why. What is the need? And sometimes we'll say, you know what, you can just do that by, creating a great email campaign online or, some other experiential opportunity. But most of the time nowadays, we're starting to realize how folks can leverage, and we offer up a reality redefined workshop where we allow senior leaders from different groups to come in and understand and educate, get a little bit of education around the different types of technology. We've got everything.
Dana, that's the answer. I'm telling you, boy, that is great to hear that you're doing that, because absolutely, positively, I'm telling you that by and large, most of these people don't even know they have a problem, no less they know there's a solution for it. And then on top of that, when you start talking, we said it earlier, and I know you guys have a philosophy that deals with the bottom line. I'm on the other side. If you can't save me money or make me money, what am I talking to you for? So when you go at it from a business perspective and look at cause and effect, efficiency of delivery and effectiveness of actual communications, or in fact the increasing of sales and profitability, I don't really care if it's chips on a car or it's virtual reality. I'm going to listen. But if I come at it I'm listening to you from that entertainment, experimental, kind of entertaining kind of situation. I'm thinking, like you were saying, fine, if you want to do it, go ahead, but I can't afford it. So I'm just saying, I reinforce that fact. I hope is there any information in terms of, do you do it often? Is it on a regular basis, or when you do it, how do you get the word out? Because I would like to help you to promote the next one you're involved in, because that's what I think in my opinion now, but from one person speaking, that is important. Tell us a little bit about that.
We host our Reality Redefined workshop on a case-by-case basis, right? Okay. Really understanding the need for a particular group. But we do a headset happy hour, which is really fun, and I'd love to invite you to, Frank, to come by and check things out, because we just open up our lab and allow people to come and play, right? Because until you don a headset and get into an experience, that's when you start to really understand, I can apply this to my business like this, or this, right? Or can I do this, and this in VR versus AR? Or, show me this great touch screen experience versus trying to pull that into a 360 immersive experience. So really getting to people comfortable with the technology and with the hardware is really part of our mission, and helping people understand how it might align with their mission, or what their challenges are really what we strive for at the end of the day. So we'd love to be able to open that up and have people come by and join us. And like I said, we do that on a monthly basis. And if I might...
Go ahead.
No, I was saying if anybody would be interested in coming and experiencing that with us, they can reach out to me directly through my email at ddojnik@youareherecorp.com. That's ddojnik@youareherecorp.com. Well,
again, it's so exciting and so challenging all at the same time. And again, evangelizing innovation, evangelizing visualization of the future. I mean, it's something I love to do, and I love to get involved in, because the possibilities are endless. And the more that you compile, it's like a sort of a Pinterest type of thing. If I'm going to work on something, or I want to develop something from a creative standpoint, I can get so many ideas and so many options that it's a wonderment. I find myself entertaining myself by looking at the possibilities and rather actually stopping and going to do the work. My point being is that I think it's important that we understand that there are the deeply involved and completely educated experts and the surrounding economy around those experts that kind of live in a bubble. And I'm not saying it from a negative standpoint, because guess what? The other people live in a bubble too. And when you get out of that bubble and you end up and you mentioned, over to a tavern or a bar and, socially kind of networking, I know that when I step out of the technology industry in general and I just start talking to, say, a medical doctor and a pretty high-end specialist, and we started talking about artificial intelligence and virtual reality. Of course, he was aware of it, but I was shocked at how naive or primitive their perspective was. So that's why I'm saying, again, I'm always fascinated. It's not about the technology. It's how you apply it. And when it comes to something that's disruptive, Jobs used to say nobody knows what they want until they see it. Well, I'll tell you what, if you own a business and you're running a traditional operation, you don't even, like in dealing with security, you don't even know you have a breach problem. So why would you go out and get a solution? So it's really an interesting bridge between how you bring innovation in the future into a situation that can help a person now. And I'm going to guess, by the way, you say toe in the water, so I'm going to guess that there is a way to kind of step in it lightly, and maybe I can get an experience that makes me feel better about spending more. So I would ask you, is that a case? And I assume it is, but tell us quickly a little bit about that. And also, has it been around really long enough to get a return on investment other than say, I met your budget and got it delivered on time and people look at it and enjoy it? I mean, are they reaching out and saying this should infect that market and increase that return on investment? I mean, has it gone that far that you could get those kind of numbers in research?
So when you start thinking about how you can utilize your 3D assets, right? You move and you design something in 3D before you ever put hammer to nail or plastic mold together, right? You design this asset you might have if it's a product, or if it's I used to work for Intercontinental Hotels Group, and, we would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars building out, test hotel rooms. When you think about the money spent on actually fabricating something, and today you can pull it into virtual reality and look at it together before you've actually spent a dime on actually producing that, that actual asset. Mm-hmm. To me, that's ROI. Granted, it takes money to build out that 3D asset, but you're not, fabricating that in real time. And you can get the input from your consumer or a focus group test, 10 times faster than you might ever have to waiting for that to get mass-produced in China and sent back to you overseas or something along those lines. So I think there's already a big ROI factor when it comes to certain aspects of it.
Well, I got to tell you that I can't think of a company off the top of my head listening today. They will have to immerse themselves in some form of technology to provide efficient training. I mean, I don't see any way out. I'll tell my clients, invest in the inevitable. I mean, if it's going that way, it will go that way. You better take a look at where you're going to play in it and how you're going to take advantage or be affected by it in one way or another. Let's close with this because I think it's important. But would you use the word revolutionize? I mean, do you think that this kind of technology is going to just be a total disruption to the traditional training industry, or will it be sort of as you might have pointed out, a little bit more creative on the ones that want to use it and less needed by the ones that don't? Give us an indication if I'm either looking for training or in the training environment. This technology,
I think you're going to have
or disruptive.
You're going to have the early adopters who are out there ready to leverage it and jump right in. And then you're going to have traditional folks who are going to be hesitant and a little more latent to really bridge that gap. And the reality is they're going to get left behind. Mm-hmm. We're going to be moving faster and forward in this VR or AR training direction, fast and furious. And I would encourage anybody, and it's not just because we're in the industry, it's because of the practical application. And when you understand the retention rates, like those are the proof in the pudding for me that makes this a no-brainer. But you got to come and experience it for yourself, and you've got to come try it out before, we can make anybody else a believer. So,
okay, one last time. For those interested, learning about AR and VR, and I don't care whether they're in training or not, they maybe just want to generally get an understanding, what would you tell them to do?
Yeah, I'd say, you feel free to jump on our website, www.youareherecorp.com, or feel free to reach out to me directly, Dana Dojnik, at ddojnik@youareherecorp.com.
Hey, Dana, next time you're back from artificial intelligence and virtual reality, and you're here with us here on this particular planet, let's come back and talk some more, because I'm assuming that as you progressively go out and do more, you're going to learn more, and you're going to see opportunities and have maybe new solutions that we haven't even imagined. So, boy, am I going to I hope you'll agree. I hope you'll come on back, because I'm just really, really psyched and excited about what you guys are doing, and the fact that you are here, which, one more time gives us that one more little dynamic that is building and building on our global leadership. But I got to tell you guys, thank you for what you're doing. And really, Dana, thanks. I know you're in this really heavy and kind of talking primitive the way we're talking now. We're in a learning mode on this side, but hey, thank you for taking time out of what I know is a busy schedule, to brainstorm and tell us a little bit about what you're involved with. And thanks for being on Tech Talk today.
Frank, that was great. I really appreciate you having me, and I can't wait to come back and chat some more.